Okay, we are now going to look at something a little challenging, the price of related goods. We're going to first look at substitutes. So you can see here, I have Coke and Pepsi. Now I recognize that in some households, replacing Pepsi with Coke or Coke with Pepsi is fighting words. Some of you will just not drink the other. But for the purposes of our discussion, let's assume that soft drinks are substitutable, okay? So I guess it might be more accurate to say Dr. Pepper versus Mr. Pibb, Sprite versus 7-Up, etc. You get the point, okay? Bottled waters, Cocoa Puffs versus Cocoa Roos. By the way, never do that. Cocoa Roos are hideous, just absolutely hideous, okay? Cocoa Puffs, they maintain their crunchy quality for a few minutes, right? So plus they make the milk all chocolatey, so outstanding product, just outstanding. Anyways, let's talk about the price of related goods, shall we? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring up a different panel. Okay, so here's that panel. Here is a demand curve shifting. So I have a question for you. Let's just pick a product that's substitutable and just try to follow and answer the questions to the best of your ability. Let's just say that the price of Coke went up. If the price of Coke went up, would people buy more Coke or less Coke? Well, according to the law of demand, they would buy less Coke. Now remember, I'm asking you this because there's a substitute product, Pepsi. If the price of Coke went up, people are going to buy less Coke. So if they buy less Coke, will they buy more or less Pepsi? Interesting. Let's try this another way. Let's go back to Sprite versus one of its substitutes, all right? Or let's look at Dr. Pepper versus Mr. Pibb, which is probably a pretty close one, all right? If the price of Dr. Pepper goes up, I'm going to buy less Dr. Pepper. And because there's a substitute out there, Mr. Pibb, I'm going to buy more Mr. Pibb. So did you get that? If the price of Dr. Pepper goes up, I buy more Mr. Pibb. So here's what you might see on a question on a test. If the price of Dr. Pepper goes up, which direction will the demand curve shift for Mr. Pibb? So let me ask you that again. If the price of Dr. Pepper goes up, people will buy more Mr. Pibb. Therefore, if the price of Dr. Pepper goes up, the demand curve for Mr. Pibb will shift to the right. The inverse is also true. If the price of Dr. Pepper goes down, the demand for Mr. Pibb will go down. It'll go from A to C. So you go to the grocery store, and 4th of July is coming up, and you're going to buy 20 cases. That's a lot. You're going to buy 20 cases of Mr. Pibb or Dr. Pepper, okay? Let's just say you're a Mr. Pibb fan, okay? And you go in there and you see that a case of Mr. Pibb is $10, but Dr. Pepper is on sale for $5 a case. Because the price of Dr. Pepper is lower, you will buy Dr. Pepper. Therefore, you will buy less Mr. Pibb. So when the price of Dr. Pepper drops, the demand curve for Mr. Pibb shifts to the left. So essentially, the price of one and the demand for the other go in the same direction. Price of Dr. Pepper goes up, demand for Mr. Pibb goes up because Dr. Pepper is expensive. The price of Dr. Pepper goes down, people buy less Mr. Pibb because it's cheaper to buy Dr. Pepper. Okay, so there you have it. Substitutes. If you have problems with that, let me know.